Hello, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of I'm Still Playing, and today we're talking about this post that came up yesterday. So if you haven't seen this yet, this is Blizzard essentially saying, holy crap, we expected you guys to get to level 80 quickly, but we did not expect you to get to level 80 this quickly. We're going to have to do something about it, and we're doing it now. Which also means that by the time you're watching this video, they've already put in the patch changes, and it's already more difficult for you to get from level 70 to level 80 than it was even during early access. So what's going on here? Gee, it's too easy to get from level 70 to 80 is something that no one has said, including me. So why are they doing this? Well, it stems from this level scaling tech that Blizzard uses in all of their open world zones these days. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about what is this level scaling system, why is Blizzard using it now in all of their open world zones, and more importantly, how does it work? Because I think once you understand those things, then you might have a little better appreciation, perhaps, of why, while it still sucks from a player standpoint to make it more difficult for you to get from level 70 to level 80, from a developer standpoint, I can kind of see why they're doing it. Although, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure, even so, that this is the right thing for them to do at this point. So what is level scaling? Well, back in the days of yore, every mob in the world was spawned in with a predetermined level, predetermined number of hit points, and its own loot table. And those things were endemic to the mob itself. And it didn't matter what level you were or where you were, a level 5 tarantula was always a level 5 tarantula. And everything was done this way. So what level scaling does is it changes that fundamental precept so that the level and hit points and loot table of the mob are scaled based on the person encountering that mob. So for instance, if I'm level 10 and I come across a tarantula in Elwynn Forest, that mob is 1 or 2 levels below me, usually level 8 or level 9. And if I'm level 19 and I come across that exact same tarantula, then it's level 17 or 18. And in fact, if you and I are both fighting that exact same tarantula at the same time, and I'm level 7 and you're level 13, it'll appear to be level 11 or 12 for you and level 6 for me, which is really kind of weird when you think about it, right? But what it means, in short, is that the level of a mob is always scaled to match your level, no matter where you are, within a particular range, and there are some details that we'll go over later. So why is Blizzard using this level scaling system? Well, actually, it's being used for you, dear player, because it gives you more choices about where you can go to level up your character, more agency for the player in terms of deciding what particular experience they want to have when they're leveling their character. And that's a good thing, right? Well, at least it certainly is on the face of it. So for instance, you remember I talked about the scouting table that they introduced in Legion, where you could choose to go to any of the 4 zones in any order that you wanted to, part of the expansion. This technology is the technology that allowed them to do that. So when you went to High Mountain, if that was your first zone, then all the mobs there would be leveled 101 to 102. Conversely, if you went to Azuna, then all those mobs would be level 101 to 102 if you went there as your first zone. And then they liked it so much, they actually rolled it out to all of the open world during the Chromie time when they introduced that just before Shadowlands. So now when you choose any of those expansions, again, all of the mobs scale to match your level as you're going through that. And while I imagine most of you by now are actually pretty familiar with what this level scaling system is, I thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about how it works, or at least how I imagine it works. And I must caveat this is strictly speculation on my part, because I'm not a Blizzard employee, so I don't know exactly what they're doing under the hood. But I have been making games for a pretty long time, so I have a pretty good idea of how I would do it, and I suspect it's most likely some variation of what you would do here. All right, so the only reason we can even do a level scaling system is because World of Warcraft is a server authoritative system. That means that you, as the client, are 100% reliant upon what I, the server, tell you that you're seeing. So you're traipsing along in Elwynn Forest as a level 12 hunter, and you come across this tarantula. Now, I know that the tarantula's hit points and max level are 30. It's a level 30 creature, and it's got 30,000 hit points. However, though, I know you are a level 12 hunter. And so what I do is I take your level, and I take the gear that you have that I also know about, and I take what class you are, and I roll that into this algorithm that basically grinds all of it together and comes out with a number that I think is an appropriate level and hit point value and loot table for you. And I say, this is what you see. And I send that over to your client, and your client says, oh, I'm looking at a level 11 tarantula with 5,000 hit points. Let me swing my sword at it, right? So, and then the way that damage is done is because I know what I've told you is the number of hit points that you have for that mob, and I know how much damage you do, then I just calculate the percentage of that, and I apply that percentage damage to the actual mob's full hit points value. So you can be doing as 15, 20% of the damage with each swing of your sword, just like a level 20 guy who's still doing, 10 or 15,000 points of damage versus your 1,000, but still only doing 5 to 10 or 15% of the damage with each swing of his sword, spell cast, whatever. And that's essentially how it works, right? So in theory, this is all great, right? Like no matter where I go in the level, I'm assured of encountering mobs that are at my level or maybe slightly below with an appropriate number of hit points that should present a challenge, but yet I should still be able to defeat. The problem, of course, is the scaling algorithm that I was talking about, because that is where the real trouble begins. If you scale the mobs too difficult, then it's very hard for me to kill, or as I get higher levels, I don't feel like I'm really progressing because the mobs are continuously killing me or very difficult to kill, and I'm a very unhappy player. However, though, if you scale the mobs too easily and too weakly, then I am trivially destroying them, even at low levels. I'm raking in the loot, I'm breezing through your content, and I'm very bored within a very quick amount of time. And this, by the way, I think is exactly what's happening right now in the War Within. This is the real crux of the matter, honestly, because scaling the scaling algorithm, if you will, is no easy task. I mean, let's think about just some of the things that you have to deal with, right? So to start off with, you've got the inherent power differences between different classes and different specs. I mean, does anyone really think it's just as easy to kill a mob with a Holy Power Priest as it is with a Blood DK? I can assure you it's not. And even with the class differences notwithstanding, you've got the problem of different gear levels. And I would imagine, like, just within the War Within expansion, you probably had to deal with a gear level range of at least 100, if not more, right? Because you had players that had reached level 70 and never touched their character again. And so they were probably eye level around 373, 325, perhaps. You had players that had done the pre-patch expansion. They were around eye level 480, which was me and all of my brood. And then you have players who are actually doing raiding and high-end mythics, and they're all eye level 515 or 520, what have you, already right now. So you're talking about this huge disparity in eye level differences that makes it really difficult to kind of figure out what the power level of the particular player is going to be when they encounter your mob. And then if all of that wasn't enough, and that's a pretty tall order in and of itself, we know that all of the classes and all of the specs have just had massive overhauls throughout all of the patching process, through all of the playtest process. So all of the Blizzard devs right now have less data than they've ever had in terms of what current relative power levels are between the classes and specs. So all of that makes for a really, really difficult situation in terms of trying to understand how you're going to get this scaling system just right so that it feels good and when you're not overpowered and not underpowered. And all that is to say that it's tough, right? So they're going to make some swings, and sometimes they're going to hit, and sometimes they're going to miss. And sometimes when they miss, if I can butcher this baseball metaphor for 1 minute longer, they're going to bring in a pinch hitter to try to fix things up as quickly as they can. And that's what's happening here. And lest you think this is a Blizzard apologist post, well, let me assure you it's not. Because even though I understand where they're coming from and why this is such a difficult problem to solve, I'm still not sure that making this nerf today was the right thing to do. In fact, I'm fairly certain it probably isn't. The only thing that I can think, because you're going to get so much negative feedback, right off the bat. I mean, you literally have the memes already flowing out that says, well, early access is over. Now they're making it more difficult. So to face that kind of blowback, the only thing I can think is that it must have been really bad, like even worse than we realize, where players, I know that players had already in the first 3 days of early access had multiple level 80 characters. So yeah, I'm guessing that they had not planned on you breezing through the content with quite that degree of ease, if you will. All right, so there you have it. Even if you don't agree with it, hopefully you have a bit of a better understanding of the depth of it, and you understand the how of what's going on if you don't agree with the why. So what do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you're playing now, if you've just started playing, I know you're probably thinking, well, it sucks because it's much more difficult for me now, or at least a little bit more difficult. But do you think they made the right move? Do you think this is the right thing to do for the link to the game? Or would you rather they have just left it alone? All right, have a great night. Thanks for coming by. Talk to you soon.